Welcome to the ISO 42001 implementation series. Over the next 12 episodes, we are going to do something that most AI governance content never actually does. We are going to build an AI management system from scratch, together, step by step. Not theory, not textbook definitions, real implementation. But before we get into the how, let's answer a question that I get all the time from governance professionals, AI leads, and compliance teams. What exactly is ISO 42001 and why should I care about it right now? Here is the honest answer. If your organization is using AI, and almost every organization is, you already have an AI governance problem. You may not know it yet, but regulators, auditors, and your own board are about to find out. This series is your head start. By the end of this episode, you will know what ISO 42001 is, why it was created, how it connects to other standards you already know, and exactly what this series is going to teach you. Stay with me, because what comes next could reshape how your organization treats AI accountability forever. So let's start with the problem that ISO 42001 was created to solve. Think about how fast AI has moved in organizations over the last 3 years. Teams are using generative AI tools for customer service, underwriting, recruitment, medical diagnosis, and in most cases, there is no formal governance framework behind any of it. No documented policies, no accountability structure, no audit trail. I was working with a financial services client recently, and when we asked them to list all the AI systems in use across the organization, they came back with 17. Then we went department by department and found 43. That gap between what leadership thinks is happening and what is actually happening is the AI governance problem in a nutshell. And here is the thing, the consequences of that gap are no longer hypothetical. Regulators are catching up fast. The EU AI Act is live. The UK is building sector-specific AI oversight. And GDPR enforcement actions already cite AI-driven automated decisions. So ask yourself honestly, if a regulator knocked on your door today and asked you to show them your AI governance framework, what would you hand them? If the answer makes you uncomfortable, you are exactly where this series can help. Let's fix that. ISO 42001 was published in December 2023, and it is the first international standard specifically designed for AI management systems. The timing was not accidental. The standard arrived as organizations around the world realized they needed a structured, auditable, internationally recognized framework for governing AI. Not a checklist, not a set of principles, but a real management system standard. Now, if you have worked with ISO 27001 for information security or ISO 9001 for quality management, you're going to feel right at home. ISO 42001 uses the same high-level structure, the same clause architecture, which means if your organization already runs an ISO management system, implementing ISO 42001 does not mean starting from zero. It means extending what you have built. But here is what makes ISO 42001 uniquely important. It is not just an internal governance tool. ISO 42001 certification is fast becoming a signal of trust. When your customers, partners, regulators, and investors ask, how do you govern your AI? Having ISO 42001 certification gives you a credible, internationally recognized answer. Think of it as the ISO 27001 of AI governance. We are at the early adopter stage right now. The organizations that move first will have a real competitive and regulatory advantage. One thing that confuses people when they first look at ISO 42001 is how many related standards exist around it. Let me clear that up because it matters for implementation. ISO 42001 is the management system standard. It tells you what governance structure to build. The companion standards provide the methodology. ISO 23894 covers AI risk management. It gives you the analytical framework for identifying and treating AI-specific risks. ISO 5338 covers AI system lifecycle processes, governance checkpoints at every stage from design to retirement. ISO 42005, published in 2025, covers AI system impact assessment, the ethical, social, and environmental lens. And ISO 27001 remains relevant because AI security is still information security. Here is an analogy I find helpful. ISO 42001 is like building the management system. The companion standards are like the specialist tools you bring in to do specific jobs within that system. You need the management system first. Then you plug in the specialist methodologies where your context demands them. Throughout this series, we will tell you exactly where each companion standard becomes relevant, so you know when to reach for them. So here is something that surprises a lot of people when they first encounter ISO 42001. They expect it to hand them a checklist. Do these 20 things and you are compliant. But that is not how this standard works. And honestly, that is what makes it genuinely useful rather than just another compliance exercise. ISO 42001 is risk-based and principle-driven. What that means in practice is that the standard does not tell every organization to implement the same controls. It tells every organization to understand their own AI context, assess the risks that are relevant to them, and select controls that are proportionate to those risks. Think about why that makes sense. A hospital using AI to support clinical diagnosis faces fundamentally different risks than a retail company using AI to recommend products. The same rigid checklist cannot serve both adequately. Here is how I explain this to clients. Imagine you are building a security system for a building. A jewelry store and a public library both need security. But the threats are different, the assets are different, and the appropriate controls are completely different. You would not install a bank vault door in a library. ISO 42001 applies that same logic to AI governance. Your risk assessment is what tells you which controls you actually need and how robust they need to be. And here is what I think is the most important design feature of this standard. Continuous improvement is not an add-on. It is woven into the DNA. Your aims is expected to get better every year, learning from incidents, from audits, from changes in the AI landscape. It is a living system, not a one-time compliance project. One thing that confuses people when they first look at ISO 42001 is how many related standards exist around it. Let me clear that up because it matters for implementation. ISO 42001 is the management system standard. It tells you what governance structure to build. The companion standards provide the methodology. ISO 23894 covers AI risk management. It gives you the analytical framework for identifying and treating AI-specific risks. ISO 5338 covers AI system lifecycle processes, governance checkpoints at every stage from design to retirement. ISO 42005, published in 2025, covers AI system impact assessment, the ethical, social, and environmental lens. And ISO 27001 remains relevant because AI security is still information security. Here is an analogy I find helpful. ISO 42001 is like building the management system. The companion standards are like the specialist tools you bring in to do specific jobs within that system. You need the management system first, then you plug in the specialist methodologies where your context demands them. Throughout this series, we will tell you exactly where each companion standard becomes relevant, so you know when to reach for them. Let me walk you through what this series covers so you know exactly what is ahead. We open with two foundation videos, this one on what ISO 42001 is, and next episode on the standards structure and clauses. Then we move into the core implementation blocks: governance, risk, lifecycle, data, operations, stakeholder communication, supply chain, and Annex A controls. We finish with implementation strategy, internal audit, and certification. 12 videos, one complete AI management system. And here is my ask: do not just watch these videos. Download the templates, use the checklists, build your aims as you go through this series. Because the real value is not in knowing ISO 42001, it is in having implemented it. If you want to go deeper on any topic, practice questions, scenario-based case studies, full exam prep, there is a link in the description to the complete Udemy course. But for now, let's go to episode 2 and start building.